Hi, today I'm going to go over rearranging formulas. This lesson 19 is from our old module, and I want you to write certain things in your notebook. So I don't know if this is selected. Yes. So rearranging formulas. Now that you know how to solve equations, one thing that's very helpful here and in your science classes is to get a formula, rearrange it, and then you could plug in values afterwards. And so that's this one that they have. I'm not sure where there's that circle. Voltage is something times resistance. I don't remember what I is. Okay, warm up. So list the steps and operations to this two-step. Again, why do I have that circle around my pen? I don't know. So this is a two-step equation. So our first thing we would do is, here's the variable, is addition. Then you're going to get 3x equals 9. And even though you may know the answer, your next step is division. So when you have numbers, you can't really use it like a formula, but when we have all variables, then we can rearrange stuff and plug in values to find a certain answer. So here we are going to solve for these two-step equations. In your notes, I would expect you to write the examples, my work. You need all these other words. So first, we're going to solve this. We're going to add 6, add 6. This next one, we're going to add 3, add 3. So we're adding something. This one, we're trying to solve for x. So here's my x. So like the others that are subtracting, I'm going to add b, add b. And people get confused with b and 6, but this is all variables, so there is no 6. So you should know it's an add b. Then we're going to get 2x equals 16. Negative 3x equals negative 9. Ax equals, now these are two different variables, so I have to write them separate. So instead of writing like a column, they become horizontal. Now this first one, we're going to divide by 2. This one we're going to divide by negative 3. And this one is not a number, but still a coefficient. We're going to divide by a. So x equals 8, x equals 3. And the last one, these cancel. Anything divided by itself is 1. So I get 1x equals, and then you have to rewrite everything that you have above here because nothing can be combined. So your answer is b plus c over a. Compare your work. Did you do anything different for part C than we did in the other ones? No. We added and then we divided. So no, steps were the same. Now this part right here you don't need in your notes. Oh, I started to write notes. Okay. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to get, usually it's x, the part you're solving for, but we're going to get into some formulas that they're going to tell us what variable to solve for. So now, instead of solving for x, they want us to solve for the a, okay? So I'm going to rewrite it. And if you're taking notes, you could do this, solve for a. What is a? So first step, we leave the variable that we're trying to solve for alone. We're going to add b. And I get ax equals b plus c. Now we're going to divide, but I'm not going to divide by the a because that will turn it into a 1 and I'll be left with x. I'm going to divide by the x. And so now the x's cancel. And I get 1a equals b plus c over x, which these two steps should look alike, but you need to rewrite your answer so it's clearer, more readable, legible. Okay, so now we're going to do some practice. I don't like how fat my marker is, so I'm going to make it a little thinner. So if the width is, so here's a rectangle, length times width, area is 25. So I know area is length times width. If the width is 10, what's the length? So we're going to use this right here. I'm going to plug in the numbers I know. 25 is the area, length times width. So this is a script L. I'm going to divide by 10 because I want the script L by itself. L equals 25 divided by 10 is 2.5 square inch. No, not square inches. Area square inches. Your length is just inches. If width is 15, what's the length? So again, I'm going to do 25 divided by 15. Oops. I jumped the gun. I showed division first, but this first line, and then you divide by 25. So you're going to get lengths equals 25 over 15, which we reduce that. 5 goes in there, 5/3, which if you divide that 1.67. But this is more precise. This is rounded because it's actually 1.66666666 forever. Okay, so let's rearrange this for L. This is our formula. Oops, we want L. We're trying to solve for L. So here's the L. We're going to divide by W. So I get area divided by width is length. Area divided by width. Area divided by width. So let's solve. Let's do this first one again. So it says to verify. So now I'm going to use my formula instead of doing this work. So length is 25 divided by 10, 2.5. Yes, it worked. This one matches this one where we did more steps. So now here are these two that we need to compare. I'm going to make my pen even thinner because this box is only so big. So this one we're going to solve for x. This one we're going to solve for x. X is on both sides. Let me do the number one first, and then I will do the variable one. The number one may be more confusing because we could actually combine numbers. This one we can't. Okay, so we're going to get x alone while x is on both sides. So first I'm going to add 5x and add 5x. So I get, I'm going to write it like this because it will help us when we do the variables. 3x plus 5x plus 4 equals 6. Now I'm going to move the 4. So 3x plus 5x equals 6 minus 4. Now, looking at these two, what's common in both of them? I know you know it's 8x, but they both have an x. So this could be written as 3 plus 5, 6 minus 4. Okay? I factored out that x is what I did. Instead of distributed, I factored it out. And instead of combining it, because here I can't combine A and B and D and C. So here, this operation's multiplication, so I'm going to divide by 3 plus 5, because anything divided by itself is 1. And this side, I'm going to divide by 3 plus 5. So my final answer, and I know we could simplify this, is this, which is 2 over 8, which is 1/4. But I want you to focus on this. So now I'm going to do the problem on this side. I'm going to make blue just because I can. I'm not going to rewrite it. I'm going to use this. So in your notes, you need to write it. So since this is a negative, I'm going to add CX, And I'm going to have AX plus CX plus B equals D. Now these have an X, so I'm going to leave them there on the left side. I'm going to move the B, just like what we did here. I'm going to have AX plus CX equals D minus B. Now you could see a common factor in these. These both have an X, so I'm going to factor it out. D minus B. Now this is multiplication, so I'm going to divide by A plus C, because anything divided by itself is 1. 3 million divided by 3 million is 1. And so now I'm going to rewrite my answer as D minus B over A plus C. Now, if I have values for these, I could just plug it into here instead of plugging into the original and solving. So my answer is this. Okay. So when it's all variables, they call it a formula. All right, so here we have, this one is right here, and this one is over there across the line. Let me start with 1. This is usually PRT are rates and time, and principal and annuity when you're buying a house or buying a car or that kind of thing. That's usually what this formula is written for. So first they want us to solve for P. So this one, you don't want to multiply and distribute this P, because then you have P in more than one place. And right now it's written pretty simply that it's separated by multiplication. So if I want to get P by itself, I'm going to divide by 1 plus RT. And then those cancel, and I get P equals annuity 1 plus the rate times time. Principal is how much you have left to owe on a car or a loan. So that one's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now 2, we're going to solve for T. So remember our original is A equals P 1 plus RT. Now since we want to solve for the T is pretty much in that equation. It's not by itself. Like this one, the P is pretty much on its own because that's multiplication. Here, it's multiplied, it's added, and then it's multiplied to this. So we're going to have to distribute that P, which is what I did right here, P times 1 and P times RT. Now, I want to get T alone, so I'm going to move the P. That's by itself. I get A minus P equals PRT. Now I want to get T alone. Sorry. I want to get T as in tea that you drink. So I want to get T alone. So the other things with it are what I have to divide by. So I need to divide by PR and divide by PR. And you get T equals, those cancel, A minus P over PR. Now, sometimes when there's subtraction and you're dividing by the same thing, you have to make sure this is a denominator for both. So sometimes something like this, you'd see A over PR minus the P's would cancel, but you're always left with the 1. These two things are exactly the same. One simplified, and this one has a numerator denominator. If I was plugging in values, this one would be easier to plug in, because with the calculator, you just use a parentheses and enter it all at once. This one, I guess your calculator would do fractions, so that's an R. Okay. Let's solve this one. So we're going to do the, I guess, purple, even though this is a different purple, for M. And then we're going to do the green for B. So we want to get the M alone. So there's two things I got to do, two things here with the m. First, well, since it's all multiply, I could divide by everything that's not m. And you get m equals k divided by 1/2 v squared. It's not proper to have a fraction in the denominator. So when you divide by a fraction, you're going to copy, change it to multiplication, and flip it. So actually it becomes 2k divided by v squared. Because the k, I'll write it over here, k divided by 1/2 is k times 2, which is 2k. So that's what happens to that, and this is our final answer. Now, that one was pretty straightforward because it was multiplication. The v is a little different because it's squared. So we're going to have to go one step further with the v. So first, it's multiplied with these things. So I divide by 1/2 m, divide by 1/2 m. This, again, is going to be 2k, but now it's going to be over m. Now, squared. Anytime you raise a number to a power, what's opposite is the root of that. You are familiar, you should be, with square root. When there is no number here, it's a square root, but we are going to get into different roots, cube, fourth, fifth. It could be any number in this root. And what happens is a root and a square cancel each other. Like if I have 25 squared, let me show it, I'll show it over here. If I have 5 squared and I take the square root, I'm just going to have a 5. So when I take the square root of a square, I'm just going to get a v. And then this answer stays the same. So there's your final answer. This could also be written as 2k square root of m. You could divide the, put the square roots in the numerator and denominator if you want. These two are exactly the same. Okay, that's it. That's all for the lesson for formulas. Your assignment is right here. It's called a problem set, but I'll get rid of that. So it's number 1, 2, 4, 11, and 12. So you could pause and write them down. So 1 through 4, you solve for x, and then this one you solve for s, and this one you solve for h. And then you submit a picture. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.